That polish is the most aging thing on your hands right now. It's not your skin, it's that color. I was standing in a nail salon about 4 years ago when a manicurist said that to me, a woman who had been doing nails for nearly 30 years. And I thought she was wrong. The color I was wearing was beautiful, sophisticated. It looked expensive in the bottle. I had specifically chosen it because I thought it made my hands look polished and refined. It was making my hands look 10 years older than they were. She explained why in about 60 seconds. And I have never looked at a bottle of polish the same way since. That explanation is what this video is. Broken into 7 colors you can act on today, with the science behind each one. Because once you understand the reason a color works, you don't need a list like this anymore. You walk into any salon, look at the wall of polishes, and know immediately which ones are working for your hands and which ones are quietly working against them. One thing before we start. The color I was wearing that day, the beautiful, sophisticated, expensive-looking color that was aging my hands, I'm going to tell you exactly what it was after color number 2. Not now, because the reason it's so damaging only makes full sense once you've seen what I'm about to show you. But I promise, when I tell you, you are going to recognize it, and everything will click into place. Before we get into these colors, if you're new here, this channel is dedicated entirely to style, elegance, and beauty for women over 60. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. And drop a comment right now telling me, what color are you wearing on your nails today? I read every single one. Color number 7, Milky Sheer. This first color is for a specific woman, and she knows exactly who she is. She has been going bare for a while, maybe years. She tried a few polishes and nothing felt right. Everything looked too loud, too young, too much for where she is in her life right now. So she stopped. And she tells herself, bare is fine. Clean, simple, easier. Here's what nobody told her. Bare nails on mature hands can actually look older than polished ones. Because bare nails show every ridge, every discoloration, every imperfection in the nail surface, with nothing to soften it. The nail is the first thing the eye lands on when it looks at a hand. Before the skin, before anything else. And an unpolished nail with no color, no gloss, no light to reflect. It draws attention to exactly what we'd prefer it didn't. The answer is Milky Sheer. And before you picture the French manicure you remember from the 90s, stop. That is not what this is. That old version, with its stark white tip and hard ruler straight line across the nail, is actually one of the worst things you can put on mature hands. The harsh white against skin contrast pulls the eye straight to the finger itself, and once the eye is there, it sees everything. Milky Sheer is the opposite. It's a soft, translucent, pinkish cream wash across the entire nail. No lines, no hard edges anywhere. It gives the nail a glassy, luminous quality, the kind that reads as, she has remarkable natural nails, rather than, she is wearing polish. It is your nail, but the best possible version of it, like it woke up rested and lit from within. If you've been bare because nothing felt right, this is exactly where you start. The difference is visible the moment you look down at your own hands. Color number 6, Cherry Wine Red. I know, some of you just tensed up reading that. Red, on hands over 60. Stay with me, because the reason this works is biological. Not a style opinion, not someone's aesthetic preference. Biology. Here is what happens to the skin on the backs of our hands over decades. Sun exposure creates age spots, those warm-toned golden brown marks that settle into the skin over time. And most nail colors do one of two unhelpful things with those spots. They either blend into the same warm register and disappear, or they clash in a way that makes the spot more visible, not less. Cherry Wine Red, specifically a deep red with a cool blue undertone underneath it, does something completely different. That blue base creates contrast against the warm-toned age spot. Warm spot, cool red. The contrast makes the spot recede. Your eye moves toward the boldest thing in front of it, the nail, and the spot becomes background noise. It's called contrast theory. Painters understood it centuries ago. The nail industry caught up eventually. Now, precision matters here, because the wrong red does the exact opposite. 3 things to know. Fire engine red, bright, warm, almost orange-leaning, makes everything on the hand harsher. Wrong. Very dark burgundy, So deep it tips into nearly brown, creates too much overall contrast, and makes veins stand out, not recede. Also wrong. What you want sits exactly in the middle. Rich, jewel-toned, with cool blue running underneath it. And always in a creamy finish. Not metallic, not shimmery, creamy. Shimmer catches light in every ridge and groove on the nail surface. And on mature nails, highlighting that texture is the last thing we want. Creamy, blue-based, medium depth. That is the cherry wine red that works. Color number 5. Soft coral and peach. Before I describe this color, I want to share one principle that will change how you look at every shade on this list and every shade you consider for the rest of your life. The goal of the right nail color is not to hide your hands. It is to redirect where the eye goes. There's a real difference between those two things. Hiding implies covering something up, a defensive posture. Redirecting means creating something so worth looking at that everything else stops registering. You want whoever is looking at you to land on the nail, not the skin, not the vein, not the spot, the nail. Soft coral and peach are the most powerful tools for that redirection in the entire color spectrum, because they are warm and visible veins are cool, and warm colors win that competition every single time without exception. The eye goes to the warmth. The vein disappears into the background. It is not a trick. It is simply how the eye processes color. The word for this family is muted. Not neon, not bright orange-pink. Muted, dusty, soft. A muted coral or soft peach does the optical work without reading as loud or young. And this family is the most universally generous across skin tones of anything on this list. Deeper skin tones come alive in a rich terracotta coral that photographs like a painting. Lighter skin tones glow in a warm peachy nude that looks like the light in the room just got better. We're at the exact midpoint of this list, and I want to give you something to hold on to for the second half. Everything I've described so far has been about the eye, moving it, redirecting it, giving it somewhere better to land than the skin around the nail. That principle is real and it works. But the 4 colors ahead of us do something additional. They don't just redirect the eye. They change what the skin itself looks like in the presence of those colors. They add warmth. They add luminosity. A woman who understands this difference looks at her hands and sees something that couldn't have come from just any bottle. Colors 4, 3, and 1 each do this in a different way. But it's color 2 where I'm going to tell you exactly what I was wearing that day in the salon. The color I was so certain was making my hands look elegant. Because by the time we get there, you will understand not just what it was, but why it's still sitting in the bathroom drawers of women all over this country right now, doing the exact same quiet damage. Underscore color number 4, sheer berry and mauve. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone look at your hands, in person or in a photograph, and say, your nails look beautiful, and when you thought about it afterward, you couldn't actually remember what color you were wearing? That has happened to me, and for a long time I thought it meant the shade was forgettable. It wasn't. It was doing the most sophisticated thing a nail color can do, making your hands look better without anyone being able to identify why. The compliment lands on you, not on the polish. That is the entire point of this color. Sheer berry and mauve have real pigment, enough to give the nails a flushed, rosy, healthy look. The kind of healthy that reads as warmth, as youth, as someone who has just come back from somewhere beautiful. But because the finish is sheer, it never creates a hard edge against the skin. It doesn't announce itself. It blurs into the hand in a way that reads as the best possible version of your natural nail color. The word sheer is doing essential work here. A deep, opaque berry, or saturated mauve, is a completely different product. Opaque sits on top of the nail. Sheer becomes part of it. That translucency lets light come through the polish slightly, which creates a softness in how the nail reads against the skin. No hard line, no edge, just nails that look alive and flushed. This is the color I reach for most often, not for special occasions, for a random Tuesday, because it asks almost nothing of me and gives back more than almost anything else I own. On cool-toned skin, sheer berry adds warmth without shifting the overall feeling of the hand. It corrects rather than announces. On warm-toned skin, it deepens into something richly sophisticated. Neither version looks like it came from a bottle. Color number 3, Classic red. I want to push back on something that has been said to women over 60 for a very long time. Red nail polish, the narrative goes, is too much after a certain age. Too bold. Too attention-seeking. You've probably heard this, or said some version of it to yourself, standing at a nail counter and putting a red back on the shelf, because something told you it wasn't for you anymore. That idea has done real harm, because a correctly chosen red on a groomed, short, oval nail at 60, at 70, at 80, is one of the most authoritative and unapologetic things a woman can put on her hands. And there is a version of red that is not just permitted for mature hands. It is correct for them. Medium depth. Not so bright it reads as garish. Not so dark it tips toward vampy. Creamy finish, always. No shimmer, no foil, no metallic. And the undertone matched to your skin. Look at the veins on the inside of your wrist. If they look blue or purple, you have cool undertones, and you want a red with a slightly blue or neutral base. If those veins look more green, you have warm undertones, and a red with a touch of brick or orange at the base works beautifully. What this red does on the hand is something no other color on this list does. It removes the hand from the equation entirely. You stop seeing skin, you stop seeing years. You see the nail. Decisive, present, unapologetic. There's a confidence in that image that nothing else replicates. Picture a photograph of a woman in her 70s, sitting at a restaurant somewhere in the south of France. Red nails, no apology whatsoever. That is the register. That is exactly what the right red does. Short oval nail, creamy finish, and the hand stops being the thing you see. And here is what I want you to carry into the next color. The reason red works when it's chosen correctly is the same reason the color I was wearing in that salon was destroying my hands when I thought it was doing the opposite. By the time I tell you what it was, you'll see exactly how close the right choice and the catastrophically wrong one can look to each other. Color number 2, warm nude. This is where I tell you, I was wearing a nude. A beautiful, understated, sophisticated nude that I had chosen deliberately because I believed, genuinely believed, that it was the most elegant, refined, grown-up option available at that counter. I was proud of that color. I thought it made my hands look expensive. It was making my hands look 10 years older. Here is what I didn't understand, and what most women are never told. There are two completely different kinds of nude nail polish. They can look nearly identical in the bottle. On the hand, they produce opposite results. A cool nude, anything with gray, ash, lavender, or blue underneath it, does something to mature hands I can only describe as draining. It reads as close to the skin in temperature, but not in warmth. The hand becomes one flat, cool, lifeless surface. Veins don't hide. They become more visible, because the cool undertone of the polish mirrors the cool undertone of the vein beneath the skin. Age spots don't recede. They sit against that flat coolness and announce themselves. The hand looks older in a way that has no clear cause and no easy name. That is what I was wearing. A cool nude, sophisticated looking, quietly devastating. If you have ever stood at a nail counter, picked a shade that looked elegant in the bottle, put it on, and then stared at your hands feeling like something was deeply wrong, but you couldn't say what, this is the answer. It was not your hands. It was the temperature of that color. A warm nude is an entirely different world. Mocha, champagne, warm taupe, anything with a peachy, golden, or rosy base. It sits just slightly lighter than your skin tone and creates the optical illusion that the fingers are longer and smoother. It adds warmth to the whole hand. It looks expensive in the way that means something. Not performed, not tried for. Just right. For deeper skin tones, rich cappuccino and warm espresso are extraordinary. For medium tones, golden taupe or warm mocha. For lighter skin, soft champagne or creamy warm beige. To know which nude is warm and which is cool, hold any bottle against the inside of your wrist. If your hand looks brighter and warmer, it has warmth underneath it. If it looks grayer or more tired, put it back. That test takes 5 seconds and will never steer you wrong. Before color number 1, what the canvas needs there, is one thing I want to cover before we get to number 1, because the right color on the wrong canvas can only do so much. Painters understood this long before manicurists put a name to it. Proportion is everything. And for hands over 60, the shape that creates the right proportion is oval. Not round, not square, not almond, not the sharp stiletto. Oval. The oval shape elongates the finger visually. It reads as slender and graceful. It softens the knuckle. Every millimeter of extra length in the nail, by contrast, pulls the eye down the full length of the finger, across the knuckle, past the tendon, over every vein, before it arrives at the nail. Short to medium, just at or just past the fingertip, keeps the eye from making that journey. It arrives at the nail and stays there. Finish matters too. High gloss, not matte. Matte absorbs light and flattens the nail. Gloss reflects it, and that reflected light reads as youth and health regardless of what color sits beneath it. Short, oval, high gloss. These three choices, made before you open a single bottle, do half the work for you. There are also colors that simply do not have the optical properties to work on mature hands, regardless of shape or finish. Stark white creates harsh contrast that highlights discoloration and yellowing. Neon brights fight against the natural tone of the skin rather than working with it. Very dark saturated colors, black, deep navy, dark chocolate, amplify every vein and every line by pulling so much contrast into the picture. Chunky glitter catches light in every groove of the nail surface and makes texture impossible to ignore. And the most dangerous ones, the cool-toned versions of colors that would otherwise be beautiful. The ashy nude that looks sophisticated. The gray-based mauve that feels refined. The dusty pink that seemed understated. These are the ones that quietly age the hand without anyone being able to name why. Now you can name it. Temperature. And you will never mistake it again. Color number 1, soft rose pink. Every other color on this list has a specific strength and a specific limitation. Cherry wine red is extraordinary, and it requires something of the woman wearing it. Soft coral misdirects the eye more powerfully than almost anything, but it is particular about who reaches for it. Warm nude is perhaps the most precisely elegant option available, and it is almost invisible. Sheer berry and mauve make your hands look beautiful without anyone knowing why, and they depend entirely on finding the sheer version, not the opaque one. Soft rose pink has none of those constraints. Not bubblegum, not hot pink, not the pale, nearly white kind that washes the nail out. The soft, warm, dusty rose that sits in the specific zone between pink and nude, close enough to the skin to feel natural, warm enough to counteract the cool blue of visible veins, pigmented enough to give the eye a place to land, light enough not to create the high contrast effect that makes spots and lines more visible. It does what coral does for veins. It does what berry does for the eye. It avoids the contrast problems of dark colors. It avoids the draining effect of cool nudes. It does all of it simultaneously, on every skin tone, in every season, in every light. There is no wrong occasion for soft rose pink. There is no skin tone it doesn't serve. There is no photograph where it looks like a mistake. That is why it has been on the bestseller list at every nail counter, in every beauty hall, for decades. OPI's Bubble Bath is the most famous shade in this family, and it has outlasted every trend that came and went around it. Any soft, warm rose pink from any brand gives you the same result. The specific formula doesn't matter. The principle does. Short oval nail. High gloss finish. Soft rose pink. Look down at your hands 30 minutes after you've done this. You won't need me to explain anything. 4 years ago, I was standing in front of a bathroom mirror, holding up my hands, and feeling genuinely defeated by them. I had done everything right, and the thing working against me was something I was deliberately choosing, twice a month, because I thought it was the most sophisticated option available. It was the temperature of my nail color. That's it. That's the whole answer. Warmth. In the undertone. That one variable determines whether your hands look younger or older, whether the color you're wearing honors everything you've built in your life or quietly undercuts it. You know the answer now. You will never stand at a nail counter wondering why something feels wrong again.